Welcome to the Life Coach Lounge. I'm Angela.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Emily. We're three life coaches who found connection in faith, friendship, and purpose.
Get ready for real talk, relatable stories, and practical tips you can actually use.
We're so happy you're here at the Life Coach Lounge.
Hello and welcome back to the Life Coach Lounge. If you are new here, welcome. I'm here with my friends Angela and Lisa. The three of us met through Christian Life Coach certification, and we keep in touch using the Marco Polo app. We talk almost daily in the Marcos, as we like to say, about anything and everything. And we are here recording this podcast in the hopes that our conversations that we have in the Marcos that transfer here to the lounge will maybe help you navigate the roller coaster of life with a little more purpose, a little more grace, maybe. Our goal is to offer encouragement to you. We like to laugh as well, so hopefully we'll have some laughter here in the lounge. And we just love honest conversation. So welcome. Thank you for being here. Today's topic is about scarcity and abundance and these two mindsets. What that means, how we can recognize if we have fallen into a scarcity mindset, how we can turn that around to live a more abundant life. And the reason this topic came up was before we hit record here in the podcast, we all like to have our favorite little essential oils just to help ground us, keep us present. And I have one called Brain Power, and I was telling the girls how much I just love it. It is so grounding, so relaxing, just love it. And so I mentioned how I didn't want to quote unquote waste it by diffusing it. And so I just like to smell it from the bottle. And my friend Lisa called me out on that being a scarcity mindset, that I have this sweet little bottle of oil, but I'm afraid to use it or quote unquote waste it. And so I'm grateful I have friends that will call me out when I have a scarcity thought, even as it comes to my essential oils. So, just to kind of set the tone here, because we are also believers, we are also Christian women, we just want to share a powerful scripture to kind of set the tone. So, in John 10:10, Jesus says, "The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." Jesus came to earth to give, not to get. And through believing in him and walking with him, and learning what he has to say, we are given the opportunity to live a life that is meaningful, purposeful, joyful, and eternal, abundant life. That's what we want, girls, right? We want to chase after the abundant life. So, to get us started today, I thought we should just start by defining scarcity and abundance. Angela, would you like to get us started? How would you define scarcity in your own words?
Well, I think scarcity is always looking for where there's never enough or not enough. It can be, I think the first thing we always think about is stuff or finances, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be, my husband doesn't compliment me enough, or my kids never call me, or I never get an opportunity to do the things that I want to do. It can be time related, never enough time in the day. I'm not as successful as my friends. It can be any area of life where you just feel like you don't measure up, you don't have enough, you desire more, but you're not desiring it from a place of creation. You're more desiring it from the fear.
Yeah, definitely fear. And what I heard when you were saying all of that, I thought from a place of lacking. Lisa, what would you add to that?
Well, I think I'm going to piggyback on what Angela said, and I am going to tie it into our coaching background, my CBT practice, which is very much like the creation cycle the three of us use with our clients. And because when we approach something from a scarcity mindset, which Angela described perfectly, I think, it feeds that negative thought pattern that is just kind of circling around. And so when we find ourselves saying things like all the time, always that way, and kind of all the worst case scenarios, right? Like that is that scarcity thinking just kind of almost eating its way into our thoughts. And it's not uncommon. I mean, I'll raise my hand. I still do it. Like, it's not uncommon to find ourselves in that mindset. And I think is especially common whenever you're in a transition from one thing to the next, you feel vulnerable. And so our brain sends up like these, what do you want to call it? Like a threat detection, like, whoo, alert, alert. And so the brain thinks it's keeping us safe when really it's keeping us stuck.
That's a great point. I'm glad you brought up that it shows up when there's transitions in life, because transitions also mean that there's something new in front of you, whether that's a new role that you're playing or a new circumstance that you need to navigate. And I think scarcity sometimes thinks, oh, if we could just go back, if we could just keep things the same, if we could just hold on to what we've had, that feels safe. But actually, that's not safe. That's a false sense of security because it's familiar.
And even if that false sense of security was not positive, like our brain will still want to hang on to that because of the word you just used, Emily, because it's familiar. It doesn't mean that it was good or positive or moving us in a forward motion, but it's familiar. And so, there again, our brain says, okay, I'm just going to keep you safe with familiarity. So, we're staying here.
Even if it's miserable.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. I believe we already touched on one of the main emotions that we feel when we're in scarcity, which is fear. Can either of you add to that? What are some other emotions we feel when we are stuck in scarcity?
I was thinking about overwhelm. I think overwhelm is an emotion when we have the thought there's not enough time or I have too much to do. And it's a, scarcity of time. And so overwhelm is definitely one. I also think envy and jealousy, comparison are definite scarcity emotions. And that comparison trap that we keep talking about, it definitely comes up when we're in scarcity mindset.
Comparison is tricky and sneaky. I
So
feel like
tricky.
comparison comes up every time we have a conversation, whether it's here or in the Marcos. Comparison is so sneaky.
I'll just speak personally because comparison is. I go back to our podcast where we talked about what our life sentence is. And as I continue to do the work to figure out if I'm correct on what my life sentence is, and also just really paying attention to how often, I'll just use my own analogy, it's kind of eating away at my thoughts almost by default because it's been happening for so long. For me, that comparison trap is tightly woven into my self worth. So that, like, mental filtering, when I'm comparing myself to someone else, then I feel like I'm missing out. I have FOMO. My self worth is challenged because I'm not as good, maybe, as the other person or the other thing, if it's a materialistic thing. Um, and it feels I feel threatened. I feel threatened when that happens. And really, it's only been, how many months ago did Angela bring up the life sentence in our Marco conversations? Like, that's, I mean, it's been a really short period of time for me to pay attention to, oh, oh, here you are again. Okay, well, I see you. You have something to say. Whatever it is, comparison, fear, judgment, whatever that feeling is. But man, my self worth is really tied to that. And that is definitely coming from a scarcity mindset for me personally.
And that goes back to the verse that we said before, right? The enemy seeks to kill, steal, and destroy. And everything you just mentioned is trying to steal your joy. Even as you work through to get over this, it's threatening all the time to kind of take you back, keep you stuck in that scarcity or that fear mindset. Okay, so let's switch to abundance. Let's define abundance. How would you define the word abundance or to live in abundance?
Well, kind of the opposite of what Angela said. So it's not necessarily, it's not about having more stuff. Like, it's not about having more money. And again, back to that comparison thing, like the bigger house and the bougie car. And it's not about having more of all the materialistic things. It's more for me about operating from a place of possibility, a place of that word that we just threw around enough, like sufficiency, like operating from a place of that. And again, pull up another podcast that we talked about where we talked about gratitude, like pulling on things that are in our present moment is going to allow us to live more abundantly.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you said from a place of possibility. When we were talking about scarcity, I was thinking the word hopeless. And when we start talking about abundance and you said the word possibility, I thought right away, there's hope there. When you are looking at your circumstances with possibility and the idea that there's enough time, enough money, enough of whatever it is, that brings hope into your situation. And just that belief that God will always provide. If we know who He is and we know His character and that we believe that He is always taking care of us, we can rest in that. Even if our circumstances are less than pleasant at the time, having that belief that this will work out just sets your mind at ease. Angela, did you have anything to add or maybe give some examples of additional emotions that we feel when we are living in abundance?
Yeah, so I was thinking about when I certified at the life coach school, my coach taught us an exercise to do that was write a list of 25 to 30 things that you want. But here's the catch: half of them have to be things you already have. And then stir up that desire for those things. So instead of saying, I have a house, you would write on your list, one thing I want is a house. I want a house and I have a house. So it just shifts you just a little bit to stir up the desire for things that you already have. I want a marriage. I want a husband. Oh, yes, I do want that. I have that. And just focusing on the gratitude, but from a place of this is what I want in my life. And I already have these things. So it's a great exercise to do. When I think about emotions of abundance, one of the first things that comes to my mind is generosity. And it can be generosity in any area. My mom and I used to have a garage sale every single year. And one thing I would do is I would tell my friends and my kids and my family members, come the night before the sale and take whatever you want. Just take it for free. And one time, several years ago, Jim's nephew, they had a house fire and their home burned down. And it was the year that we sold our home, and we had a huge estate sale selling furniture and so many things. And I told them, come over and take whatever you want. And it just felt good to be able to give so generously, and knowing too that, I believe in sowing and reaping. I believe that that is coming back to me. And just having that abundant mindset that I don't need it, you can have it. I don't need any money for it. It feels very abundant to me.
That's amazing. And not only did that bless those people that you were offering to let them just come and take your beautiful things for free, but it blessed you as well. So abundant life for you and abundant life experience for them. That's beautiful. And also, are we now included in that inner circle?
I
I
know
was
you
going to
want to be
say,
my
if
neighbors
you
right
have
now.
if you have another estate sale or garage sale, I would book a flight to
Hey,
Michigan to first of all see you, and I'd
yeah,
happily
right.
buy things from you with
Rent
it.
that
So,
U-Haul and come
and I
on
know
down,
Lisa agrees with
girls.
me.
Don't threaten us with a good time. Yeah. Yeah. Be
Right?
careful what you say,
Yeah,
Angela.
you're invited. You know it.
Emily
Oh,
and
I
I show
love
up
that.
with little tiny U-Haul things behind.
You need to. That would be
We're
amazing.
here.
Yes,
Too bad Emily
yes.
and I don't live in the same direction.
Yeah, it's okay. Another thing I was thinking about is sometimes we can almost trick ourselves into abundance. For example, we say, well, of course, God is first in my life. As Christians, we would say that God is first in my life. Well, I heard our pastor one time say, let me check your bank statement and your daily schedule, and I will see what your priorities are. And so sometimes I think we just have to check ourselves a little bit and say, am I really practicing what I preach in this area? Maybe I've tricked myself into having this abundant mindset, but am I actually living it out through, my actions and my words, even?
That's so good. I think too, to compare the two again, scarcity is very much fear over faith. Abundance is very much faith over fear. Which one are we going to give the megaphone to, right? Which one do we want to listen to guide what we're thinking and feeling? So, as I was thinking about this and preparing for our talk today, I did come up with the two kind of worldly thoughts of are you a glass half empty person or you glass half full person, which is again that perspective I think that applies here. Glass half empty would be scarcity. Like, oh, I only have half of what I need. Glass half full is wow, look at how much I have and expecting it to start to overflow. Right. And then I also think of like optimist or pessimist. So those are things that I correlate also with scarcity versus abundance. So it's easy to slip into a scarcity mindset. It's always just right there, even in our subconscious, those thoughts can start to creep in. Thankfully, I have friends like the two of you that will be ready to call me out on it, which I so appreciate. But if you don't have a friend or a coach that can recognize it and call you out on it, what are some examples that we can just individually start to recognize if we have slipped into a scarcity mindset in any area of life? Lisa, what's a good example of maybe a thought that we would think in our head or say out loud that could indicate that we're in scarcity?
I'm going to go with something that is close to my heart right now, just because it's when I have a daughter who's in college who kind of comes and goes from being home and then back at school or on break or that type of thing. And my oldest has been out of the house now for over a year. I've entered the mostly empty nest, and there are times when it's easy for me to have a scarcity thought or pattern of thinking, a full day of thinking these thoughts. Um, and they usually are led with something like, well, what now? And how's this going to go? And I don't even know what to do. I think that there is also, again, with comparison, it can shift to the other way too. I feel like if I spend too much time on social media, it could go one of two ways. It could encourage me to think differently, or it can spoon feed me because, of course, the algorithm is going to feed me. Oh, you're an empty nester? Oh, well, let me show you all these things. And then it's just kind of fuel on my fire of what, see, what now? Like, look at all these people. They too are like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Feels awful. And so, one of the things that I have done over the last year is instead of saying, oh, what now, is when I write things out, or I've kind of pulled away for the last 6 months. I'm not really sure why, but I've pulled away from journaling, like handwritten journals, and using my notes app a lot more. Maybe because I always have my phone nearby. And when I think something and I just want to get it out, I just open it up and speak right into the phone. So I've moved from that what now scenario to what's possible now. What what is possible to happen now? Because I go back to what I said earlier, where you can have, like, women in transitions, we feel vulnerable. Like, wait a minute. And it can trigger some past experiences for us, both subconsciously and consciously. And so it's just another area for me where I've had to, like, really pay attention to that scarcity mindset creeping in. Okay. This transition is, it's possible. This transition is an amazing part of my life
I
because
love
it's an
that.
amazing part of my child's life. Yeah.
And even you saying, what now? Which, when you said that, left me kind of feeling like, oh, confusion
Womp
and
womp.
uncertainty. And what did you say?
It's like womp womp. What now? Womp womp.
Want. Yes, like what now? Woe is me, life is over. Versus what's possible gets your brain even started to go in that direction of, oh, there's other possibilities. What are they? It gets you creative, it gets you anticipating that there is something else. And this is so true in the transition to empty nest. And I would also say it's true for older teenagers or even those graduating from college. That transition from high school to adulthood, from college to the workplace. With my daughter, she just got married. She's very young. She didn't go to college. She got married a year after graduating high school. So even she's in that phase of, well, I'm happily married, but now what? Everybody's asking, am I gonna get a job? Am I gonna work? And she's like, I'm not sure yet. And I just keep telling her that's okay. You'll figure it out. But those scarcity mindsets come in because you think, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, right? We've talked about this too, shoulding on yourself. Whenever should statements come in, I should have figured this out. I should be doing what all these other people are doing. Those are definitely scarcity mindsets to just quiet that. And I love what you said, Lisa. What's possible at this phase? That's a great way to shift it to abundance.
I think that abundance doesn't always feel good either. When we are living in abundance, we are feeling every emotion that comes our way, not just avoiding the bad ones, the negative ones, the ones that don't feel good, we are inviting them. And so abundance, doesn't always feel good. If you're, caretaking, taking care of an aging parent, it doesn't always feel good, even though you're in a place of abundance and taking care of someone. Um, if you're loving your people and they're hurting, that doesn't always feel good. So I just want to say that abundance isn't always, like you said, being an optimist or my glass is half full. It's living fully. That's what I believe, living fully. And living fully is feeling sad sometimes, feeling, you know, angry sometimes. So, yeah, I just wanted to say, don't get the impression that, when I have an abundance mindset, everything is going to feel great. I don't believe that.
I was thinking about that when you mentioned the allowing family members to come to your estate sale because they had just had a fire. Like, that's, I was thinking when you were talking, I'm like, wow, that's pretty traumatic. So for them, I'm making broad assumptions here, but for them to come from a traumatic experience, and where scarcity might be a bit of a protection for them, but they're moving towards healing, that's where I think that offering support in the way that you did allows someone who's moving from scarcity into abundance just becomes part of that healing work. So I couldn't agree more with you that it's not, it could be toxic if you tried to be like over positive about
Right.
everything
Right.
and not realistic.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, we're not talking about toxic positivity and just
Hmm.
everything's happy all the time because we know life is not like that. What came up for me when you were both just talking was we talked about fear being part of scarcity, but there is also I don't know if it's the word fear or a discomfort of like taking risks when you're following through on what God has asked you to do. So instead of living small, because our scarcity mindset will tell us better to just stay under the radar, you don't want to risk failing. What if you know, don't get this right the first time? That's part of my life sentence is don't mess it up. And so they end up not doing the thing or not taking the chance, even when I feel like God has said, hey, this is something I think you should move forward with. So there is that discomfort in moving forward in something, but it's a different kind of fear. Does
Hmm.
that make sense? I think you're both nodding. So I think you both understand what I'm saying there. Just, I don't want to be living small. I want to be living abundantly. And yes, sometimes living abundantly and putting my gifts out there and helping others and doing something new and challenging is going to cause those discomfort sort of feelings like Angela mentioned.
You have shared prior to this recording today so many great ways to reframe your mindset too. You shared with us in a document different passages from the Bible and just different ways to both reframe your thought, to trust in God's provision. So I think it's important also when someone is, if I'm piggybacking on the okay, we're not being toxic, positivity here and abundance can feel a little uncomfortable at times, and that's okay. It doesn't mean anything has gone wrong. And so turning to scripture, turning to friends, loved ones, like just seeking out the support you need from a variety of places using that toolbox we talked about before too, right? That what is going to help fill that quote unquote, is my glass half full or is my glass half empty? And regardless of what your answer is, what is going to help you fill it? Because that's ultimately the goal. Can't pour from an empty cup. Like that's, I believe that's actually a true statement. You really can't. Like, I mean, you can, I guess, yes. As mothers, I guess I take that back. I eat my words. I take that back. We can all pour from an empty cup. We've all done it multiple times. It is not sustainable.
Right.
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
not over the long run. We can't.
Great point. Such a great point. And catching those not enough thoughts, I feel like even us having this conversation and being aware of catching those scarcity thoughts, catching them, writing them down, journaling them. It doesn't have to look fancy. Just get a piece of paper and ask, what fear am I believing here? What lie am I believing here? What is going on in the background of my mind? Write it out. And then, like you said, discuss it with a friend or reach out to us. We'd be glad to help you analyze what's going on up in your head. And yeah, turn to God's word and remember, he says, so in Philippians 4:19, he says, "My God will supply every need of yours according to his riches in glory in Christ Jesus." Colossians 3:2 even says, "Set your mind on things above, not on earthly things." Oftentimes, our circumstances, earthly things, material things, that does not always how scarcity shows up, but a lot of the times that can reveal maybe something deeper, will make us fall into scarcity. So I love that. And then Angela already said, living generously with your time, with your money, just even in encouraging someone, taking the time to have a conversation with someone, and then speaking life over everything that you're doing, just using affirming faith filled language about your future, dreaming. Like Angela was saying, that exercise that you learned in the life coach school, where they said to list out the things that you want, and also that those were some of the things you already have. What a beautiful way to see what God has already provided and then just believing that he will work out all of those other things. Not that it's a wish list, that he'll become a genie and just grant all of your wishes, but believing for future hope, believing for future possibility. I love that. And of course, gratitude. We talked about that in a previous episode. Just thanking the Lord for what he's already given, just having so much gratitude can shift our perspective.
And we can be grateful even if we haven't received what we're trusting God for. We can be trusting God for healing or for, a prodigal child or whatever it is. And we can have his peace during that time. So we can be trusting God and also, living in an abundance of peace and joy while we're waiting on God.
And know that if you lay your piece down because you are stuck in a scarcity mindset or trauma or something like that, if your piece has been laid down for a period of time, that too doesn't mean that you have failed or something has gone terribly wrong, because he's still there. His arms are still open and he is still waiting to receive you. So whether you've laid it down because you're mad and angry and you're having a temper tantrum, he's going to wait until you're done. Or you're sad and lonely and you're stuck and you're not sure how to move forward, still there for you. So again, use your wellness toolbox, ladies.
I love it. And praying that the peace of God that he says surpasses human understanding. Praying for that to guard your heart and mind when you can't muster it up yourself, when your circumstance really truly feel like they don't have peace in them. Okay, well, that's when I'm going to rely on the peace that I know God can give me that is beyond my capabilities, beyond my understanding. So good. Well, let's wrap up and give our listeners a little challenge for the week. We just encourage you to catch one scarcity thought and reframe it in faith. Try and speak life over it, acting as though you are trusting that it's all going to work out. Don't let the fear take over. Notice where fear is trying to guide you and instead replace it with that faith. And like I said, we're always here to help if you need any guidance to do that. Well, thank you for the discussion on scarcity and abundance today, my friends. And thank you to all of our listeners for joining us in the lounge. We really, truly do appreciate each of our listeners, and we love hearing from you. You can connect with us on Instagram at the Life Coach Lounge. You can reach out to us individually. All of our contact information is in the show notes. And if you like what we have to say, would you please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing? Your support helps others to find us and for them to be encouraged as well. So until next time, we just want to say again, we're grateful to have you here with us. And we look forward to hanging out with you in the next episode. And my friends Lisa and Angela, I will see you very soon in the Marcos.